Hello again, flight simulators. Hello again, flight simmers. This is your captain speaking, and this is part 3 of a review of Little Navmap. And in the last 2, we looked at the application itself and the format of the application, all of the various dialog boxes and windows that are contained within it. Part 2, we looked at how to create a flight plan. We created a flight plan from March Air Force Base or Air Base to the Fresno Yosemite International Air Base, from South California to Mid-California, and created a flight plan for that. And in this video, we're going to take that flight plan and use it within Microsoft Flight Simulator to fly an IFR flight to Yosemite. And so our point is to look at Little Navmap and see how it is used with Microsoft Flight Simulator and the features that are available there for our convenience. One of the things that the flight plan does when it is created is to create, or what Little Navmap does, is to create an elevation profile. We looked at this a little bit in the last video, but not real closely. The elevation profile shows us the altitude of the ground at various locations along the flight. As I move the cursor across the flight plan profile, you should be able to see a blue circle that's moving along the plan within the map. So you can see where the location is, where the high points and low points are, etc. Part of this flight plan elevation profile is built up around the capabilities of the aircraft that we're going to be using. In this case, a Beechcraft Bonanza airplane. If I go up here to the aircraft menu and select Edit Aircraft Performance, it'll bring up a dialog box that has been created, or that shows what's been created for this particular aircraft. The aircraft is the Bonanza G36 by Asobo. It's one of the default aircraft within Microsoft Flight Simulator. In order to create this, I just created a default aircraft and then tweaked the various parts of it. I will do a video on how to do that later on. It's not very difficult, but there are a few little tricks that you need to know. But we set the required runway to be 1,500 feet. This has a retractable landing gear, so I wouldn't want to land it on grass. I suppose that it is capable of doing that, but I wouldn't want to do it because of the design of the aircraft. So I've set it to require a hard runway. And then on the Performance tab, we set up various things here. For example, how much fuel the aircraft can hold, how much reserve fuel, taxi fuel, extra fuel, and contingency fuel that we want to have. We set up what we believe to be the average climb speed. These are required values for the use of the aircraft performance within the simulator. And so all of these things are set, and you can put default values in here and allow the Little Navmap to tweak them later on. What Little Navmap will do is to collect information on the performance of the current aircraft, and then later on you can use that to merge that information into the performance of the aircraft as it's currently defined. Here are the current values, for example, for the Bonanza aircraft. And over here on the left, everything is 0 because we're not in the flight yet. But as I fly, these values will be collected for the current flight. And they should roughly align with what we find over here on this side. Sometimes they will not align very much, depending upon how accurate the data is on the right, and whether we're flying a normal flight for this particular flight that we're on. But we can either copy these values over to the current value into the current value, or we can merge them. Merging is more like an averaging of the values on the right hand side with the values on the left, or we can ignore them. These buttons down here simply will change all of these values either to copy, merge, or ignore, except for the aircraft model and aircraft type. Merge and copy will always set these to be copied. And the reason for this is that this data on the current value needs to be what Little Navmap expects over here on the left on the new value. And otherwise you will get an error over here that there's a mismatch. So nothing to merge or copy on this occasion, so we'll just click cancel here. So we have a flight plan to go. How do we get it into the application? Well, we saved it to a PLN file, and that PLN file can be loaded up into Microsoft Flight Simulator, and we can fly it from that. So let's go to Microsoft Flight Simulator and get ready for our flight. We already have the Beechcraft Bonanza G36 selected, so we come down here and select load or save, and we're going to select load, and we're going to select the last one that we created, IFR March ARB to Fresno Yosemite International, and select open. And that will open this flight plan within the window here. One thing it does not provide for us is the parking spot. And if we just go into fly now, this will put us at the end of the default runway, and we can fly it from there, but we won't be starting cold and dark. And so if that's important to you, then you want to make sure that you select the parking spot, or select a parking spot up here. Be sure that you do it from this location here instead of going down here and selecting it from the map. If you select it from the map, it's going to change everything. So instead, select it up here. In the Little Navmap, we said that we want parking spot number 72. And so we're going to scroll down here and look for parking number 72 and click that parking spot. So that selects parking spot number 72 to be our departure spot. Now, another thing that Little Navmap does when you create a flight plan is to calculate a fuel report. And the fuel report has a number of things in it that are interesting for us. But the thing that's most important to us right now is how much fuel is it going to take to fly this flight plan. And all things being equal, what Little Navmap is saying is that today's flight will take 92 pounds of fuel, or 15 gallons. And the block fuel that we need for this flight is 108 pounds, or 18 gallons. And this is based upon how much fuel we want to have left over when we get to the airport. This is a fudge factor. This is a safety consideration, and it's based upon the reserve fuel, the taxi fuel, the extra fuel, and the contingency fuel that you want to have within your tanks that are above and beyond what it takes to get to the next location. So all of that information is collected out of the aircraft performance file, and the distance is used to calculate the amount of fuel that's going to be needed for the climb, descent, and the cruise phases of the flight. So now we know I need 92 pounds or 45% of the usable fuel. So I can come over here where I select my aircraft. I can go into weight and balance, and I say I don't need 50% of the fuel. I need 43% of the fuel on board. That allows me to lessen the weight of the fuel in the aircraft, and still be able to get to the airport with plenty of fuel left over. More important would be if we were on a long flight and it said that it needed more than 50%. What if you needed 65% of your tanks filled up and you left it at 50%? Well, you might not make it to the airport. You have some extra fuel left over, but that's for emergencies, and you might not make it to the airport if you don't come in here and adjust the amount of fuel in your airport. So that's another way that Little Navmap helps you out. It helps you calculate the amount of fuel you need for your aircraft. Let's close that now. We have that set up. Our flight conditions, we have it configured for live weather, and don't know exactly what the weather will be like, but this is going to be an IFR flight. So let's go ahead and see if we can make it with live weather. Live weather, live time, click on fly. Give this a moment or two to load up our aircraft, and then we'll get started. All right, here we are at the March ARB, and let's come over to Little Navmap again. I'm having a little trouble getting it to the screen. Take a look at what has changed. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to change my layout to a layout of my preferences. I like to have the map over here on the right hand side. This is especially useful to me when I'm flying because I have two monitors, and I place this on the monitor on the left while the flight simulator is on the monitor on the right, and my map will be right next to the monitor that I'm flying on. The change that we have now is that the aircraft that I'm flying is now shown on the tarmac at the website with all of the taxiways listed here. Navmap has just been updated, and one of the changes that it's made is to put the labels on the maps in better locations to help a user when he's trying to fly, so that he can follow the instructions a little easier. Now we don't see it yet because we haven't taken off, but as soon as we take off, we'll see the plane down on this elevation profile as well, and there'll be a track line here that we can see where we've been altitude wise along the course. So let's go ahead and get in our plane. Okay, here we are, cold and dark at the air base, and we just go through the regular procedures to get started here. Let me first of all, we'll turn on let's get this where we can see it a little bit better. Turn on the master switches and the alt switches. Allow the PFD to start up. Turn off that little idiot button, or that idiot warning, just telling us that the oil pressure is low, which we know. And we set our beacon to be on, and we set our mixture fuel full, prop speed to full, and about quarter inch or so on the throttle. Turn our switches to start. Okay, there are a little, one of the features of the Bonanza aircraft is that when you start in it cold and dark, it starts with the parking brake reset, so that if you forget to set it before you turn it on, then it's going to take off on you. You have to give it a little bit of gas in order to get it to start, and it's enough to make it roll. And so be forewarned if you use this aircraft. All right, now that we have our beacon on, our engine running, we'll turn our nav lights on, turn our avionics switch on, and wait for the MFD to get started. There we go. And now let's go up here and select our ATC, tune to March clearance, and request our IFR clearance.
March clearance delivery Beechcraft November 7278 IFR to Fresno ready to copy. Beechcraft November 7278 is cleared to Fresno Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 14 climb and maintain 10,000 feet. Departure frequency is 134.0 squawk tree 675.
Read that back.
Beechcraft November 7278 cleared to Fresno Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 14 climb and maintain 10,000 feet. Departure on 134.0 squawk tree 675. Beechcraft 278 read back correct. Contact ground on 121.75.
All right, and now we will see that we're going to be taking off runway 14, and we're instructed to climb to 10,000 feet. So we'll set our altitude to 10,000. feet. We'll use flight level change to get there, FLC mode, and set our speed to 102. The best rate of climb, VR speed, or VY, is 100 knots. And for some reason, the FLC mode will fly about 2 knots lower than what you specify. So we're going to set it to 102 to get 100 knots for our climb speed. All right, and select that. Select our CDI to use GPS mode. Don't need the inset. And go ahead and roughly set the heading to 140 degrees. Which will be close to what runway 14 heading will be. And then we'll set that more accurately once we get to the end of the runway. And let's see, let's go to request our taxi
November
clearance.
7278 with Oscar ready to taxi IFR. Beechcraft November 7278 taxi to and hold short of runway 14 via taxiway Juliet Delta Lima. Contact tower on 127.65 when ready.
Acknowledge that.
Taxi to and hold short runway 14 via taxiway Juliet Delta Lima Beechcraft 278.
All right, so we want to go to runway 14 using taxiways Juliet Delta Lima. So let's take a look at Little Navmap and find these taxiways if we can. Juliet. Well, there's Delta. There's Juliet. And my guess is that this aircraft is going to be a little bit off. So let's find 14. There's Lima. So maybe this is Delta. Maybe that is, oh, where is our plane? Our plane is already started. It is started, but we're on the tarmac, so there it is. How did our plane get over there? Ah. That's 72, not 22. Okay, I set it to be 22. So Juliet here, Delta, and then Lima is where we're going to go. So let's see if we can find our way to Juliet, Delta, and Lima from where we're at. And ignore our little helpers over there. And I think all of our there's Juliet. I think maybe I have lost my settings in Microsoft Flight Simulator for my rudder panel. I know that I have. So let me take a moment and correct that. Not working just right. Oh, well, maybe it is. That looks correct for the rudder. So I wonder why it is so sensitive right now. Okay, for some reason it was using the default rudder instead of the one that I was using, the one that I had defined. But going back to the control sections, automatically selected the settings that I had before. I had a little bit of problem with Microsoft Flight Simulator earlier today because my internet was out, and apparently that reset things until I went into the control section and reset it. So there is Delta. Not very good on my centerline pride. The old plane wants to roll. Now I'm watching over here on the left-hand side my aircraft running along the taxiway here, so I can see exactly where I'm at on the airport. I'll try to bring that over so you can see what I'm seeing. I'm getting down to the end of the Delta taxiway where I want to turn onto Lima. Here we are. You can see how Little Navmap helps you to navigate on the tarmac, the taxiways. I don't see a stopping point well defined here, so we'll just stop right here. I guess this is it. Yep. All right. And we'll take this back off. Tune to the tower. And request takeoff.
Large Tower Beechcraft November 7278 at runway 14 ready for takeoff IFR to Fresno.
Beechcraft November 7278 cleared for takeoff runway 14.
All right, acknowledge that.
Cleared for takeoff runway 14 Beechcraft November
And line
7278.
up. Now, a lot of things we have skipped in this. We haven't done our pre-flight run-up, or we haven't really checked our ailerons, rudder, and elevators. For a real flight, we would definitely want to do that. This is not a real flight. All right, and now we could be centered a little bit better, but this will work. Now we're going to set our heading indicator to the direction of the runway. Select our nav mode to heading. We've got a nav mode of heading. The FLC is set to 102 knots, and our selected altitude is 10,000 feet. So let's take off. I'll just leave that there. Try to stay at the center of the runway. Sometimes a little easier said than done. And rotate. Positive rate, gear up. And we're about 500 feet above the air, above the surface. So turn on our autopilot and let the airplane fly itself. That will put us on a course to run along the runway. Acknowledge your handoff.
1340 Beechcraft 278.
Select 1340 as our comm radio and contact SoCal departure.
Beechcraft November 7278 is at 2,700 feet, climbing 10,000 feet. Beechcraft November 7278 SoCal departure, continue to Papa Delta Zulu as planned. Altimeter 29.9.
Right now we have permission from ATC to continue along our plan. So we're going to change our nav mode from heading to nav, and that will cause us to follow the GPS settings in our flight plan. Looking at Little Navmap now. We're too close for us to see, so we'll zoom out a little bit so we can see where we're going. We have the trail of the airplane going here to show us where we've been. We have the flight plan illustrated in magenta on the nav map. We have the airplane flying toward the flight plan location. Down here you can see in the elevation profile that the plane is flying, and it's roughly following the projected altitude that Little Navmap figured out for the airplane. You also see each of the waypoints along the course of the plan on the elevation profile. The first one being Papa Delta Zulu, that we're going to right now, as you can see within the Garmin information here at the top of the Garmin PDF file. PDF? Primary Flight Display, PFD. Primary Flight Display. PDF is a file format. Just a little bit here, if you're not familiar with the FLC mode. FLC mode will attempt to keep the plane flying at the speed that you've selected. We've set it to be 102, and it's flying now about 99 to 100 knots. And what that does is it causes the plane to pitch up until it slows down to that speed. And so, since this is the best rate of climb, we set it for our climb in the plan, and that should get us up to the selected altitude faster than any other speed. As we go higher and higher, the speed of our speed of our ascent will slow down because the airplane becomes less efficient and just struggles to climb more. So right now we're at 8,500 feet, and the climb rate is close to 1,000 feet per minute. As we get up closer to 12,000 feet, you'll see that drop off. The best height is probably right now about 18,000 feet. And it is a little difficult to get it up to 18,000 feet. Once you get up beyond 15,000 feet, the climb rate slows down quite a bit. And at 18,000 feet, you're almost stalled when you get there. If you leave it up to the autopilot by itself, the autopilot will stall the aircraft. So you have to kind of trick it to move it up to that level. I may do a video on that someday, because I found a way to do it within the Bonanza to get up to 18,000 feet without stalling.
Beechcraft 278, climb and maintain 12,000 feet.
Acknowledge.
Climb and maintain 12,000 feet, Beechcraft 278.
Fortunately, they have given us Instructions to climb to 12,000 feet before. No, we're set now to Alt, so we've got to go back, select the FLC mode change again, and then change our flight speed back down to 102.
Beechcraft 278, contact Los Angeles Center on 126.35.
Acknowledge the
Going to
handoff.
126.35 Beechcraft 278. Los Angeles Center Beechcraft November 7278 is climbing through 10,300 feet for 12,000 feet. Beechcraft November 7278 Los Angeles Center, continue to Papa Delta Zulu as planned. Altimeter tree 0.01.
I just turned on my strobe light. I should have had strobe and landing lights turned on and forgot to do that. Now that we're at 10,000 feet, we turn the landing lights off. So I won't turn the landing lights off, but the strobe lights come on. And here we are coming to Papa Delta Zulu. And we're almost at our top of climb. It's indicated here. It says expand this out so we can see.
Contact SoCal departure on 134.0. Going to 134.0 Beechcraft 278. SoCal departure Beechcraft November 7278 is climbing through 10,900 feet for 12,000 feet. Beechcraft November 7278 SoCal departure, continue to Papa Oscar Mike as planned. Altimeter tree 0.01.
So you can see how the plane ascent has slowed down as we get higher.
Contact Los Angeles Center on 126.35. 126.35 for Beechcraft 278. Los Angeles Center Beechcraft November 7278 is climbing through 11,100 feet for 12,000 feet. Beechcraft November 7278 Los Angeles Center, continue to Papa Oscar Mike as planned. Altimeter tree 0.0 tree. Beechcraft 278, contact Los Angeles Center on 132.85.
Something I've failed to do a moment ago
Going to 132.85
was
Beechcraft
to
278.
lean my mixture as we climbed, and because of that the speed dropped a lot, and it didn't need to.
Los Angeles Center Beechcraft November 7278 is at 11,500 feet, climbing 12,000 feet. Beechcraft November 7278 Los Angeles Center, continue to Papa Oscar Mike as planned. Altimeter tree 0.0 tree.
Refine my leaning here. To get the most power. I think that's it right there. Now we are leaned down, and we're still only getting 150 feet per minute at the very end here, but we're almost to our cruising altitude. So that's the climb portion of our flight, and now we are cruising. Let's take a look now in Little Navmap at our collected aircraft performance. Now you can see some values in here for the average climb speed, 111 knots. Now that is ground speed, not true airspeed. So the reason for putting it in ground speed is because they're trying to calculate how much fuel you need for a particular flight. And when you have a headwind or a tailwind, that makes a change in the speed of the aircraft. The average vertical climb rate, the average fuel flow for the climb, and all that information is used. You can see it's roughly equal to what our current value is. Now the cruise speed, it's already collected some information there. Our cruise speed is about 141 knots compared to 151 knots. The fuel flow is 13, where we have it set to about 50. I'm not sure why the difference is there. We don't have any descent information yet, so these are still set to 0. Now, one thing that I'm seeing here interesting is it has the taxi fuel setting at -6 pounds. I'm not sure why. That is obviously an error, so I want to make sure that I don't merge that information. We'll just ignore it. And I'm not going to do anything right now because we don't have the descent speed in there, so I'll just click cancel. Well, that's the takeoff and the climb and the beginning of the cruise. I'm going to pause the video at this time, and we will pick up again when we get to the descent portion of the flight, and see a little bit more of what the Little Navmap. Well, there's a couple of things I can show you right now. So before we pause, let's go ahead and take a look at simulator aircraft. Aircraft that we're using is the Beechcraft airplane. This tells us how much the airplane weighs, the empty weight, the zero fuel weight, and the total payload that's on board at this point. Progress shows us the progress to the destination, the amount of fuel. We have 193 nautical miles to go. It'll take about an hour and 12 minutes to go there at the current speed. And we should get there about 5:15 p.m. UTC time. We still have 137 nautical miles to go to reach the top of descent. 49 minutes to get there, and we should get there at about 4:52 p.m. UTC. And the next waypoint is Hassa. We have 6 miles and a half to go. Should get there in about 2 minutes. And we come on down here and see the heading of the aircraft, the track that it is following. We've got a lot of crosswind, 40 knots, look at that. And some of that we'll interpret as a tailwind, give us a little bit of speed. Our current ground speed is 200 knots, which is pretty nice ground speed. And we have the aircraft speed, the altitude we're at, the speed, and the environment. And so that's a simulated aircraft. We don't have any multiplayer or AI now, so nothing to look at there. If we come over here, there is another value, another field for current performance, and we can see the performance of the aircraft here. Now there's something here that I'm missing. I thought it should be on this one. And let me see if I can find it. For some reason I'm not seeing the endurance. Aircraft progress. Endurance, here we go. Aircraft, the heading, track, the fuel flow, 13 gallons per hour. The endurance at our current speed is 2 hours and 21 minutes, or 489 miles. Since we have 184 miles to go and only 1 hour and 8 minutes, we've got plenty of we'll have plenty of fuel when we get where we're at. However, we are burning up the fuel right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the amount of fuel that we're using, which is set at about 13, and let's reduce our RPMs to about 2600. And the manifold input, let's bring it down to about 17 inches. And that is really jumping around. 18 inches. Why is that jumping around? I've got to clean my throttle, I guess. So that brings us down to about 10 gallons per hour. So that saves us a few gallons per hour at the cost of a little bit of speed. Our speed is still 171 knots, true airspeed, and because we have a tailwind of 10 to 15 knots, our ground speed is 190 knots still, so that's not a bad progress. All right, we will take a break now, and when we get closer to Fresno, we'll see you again. Well, I've run into a little bit of trouble on the way to Fresno in the form of ice, and really iced up the plane and lost a great deal of altitude. I'm trying to climb back to 12,000 feet now, and it's going very slowly, which gives me an opportunity to point out something within Little Navmap in the progress bar. If you ice up, it'll tell you how much the icing is costing you. Right now, I have a loss of about 59% of ice structure. I was at 100% a while ago and falling almost like a rock, trying to get back to where I could fly again. And actually, I had to cheat a little bit and change the weather condition so that I wouldn't ice up anymore. I didn't want to do this flight over again. Now structure is about 58%, so I'm getting a little bit of the aircraft back, and I'm able to climb once again, but just barely. And hopefully this ice will dry off in a few minutes, and we'll be able to go ahead and complete the flight. I am now about a little over halfway to the flight. I still have a ways to go until I get to the top of descent. Looks like we're past the top of the descent already. So we should be getting instructions from ATC to start our descent into Fresno. We've got a 42 nautical miles to our destination, so we're getting pretty close to where we're going. So we may as well go ahead and continue from this point, and hopefully we can get some good information from Little Navmap for those who are watching this video to learn how to use it. Hopefully, let's see what happens with us in the next few minutes. Let's go ahead and turn over to the current performance again, and find my current performance. Oh, here we go. And we still have an hour and 30 minutes, close to that, that we can fly. And let's say destination to the airport. Looks like it's 16 minutes out. So we should be getting some instructions from ATC in just a few minutes. Let's see how that goes. Looks like we are finally getting back to our altitude.
Beechcraft 278, you are 39er miles southeast. Descent and maintain 6,000 feet. Expect ILS Yankee runway 29er right approach by ALTTA transition. Cleared to ALTTA.
All right, we have our clearance to A.
Beechcraft 278 descent and maintain 2,800 feet.
We have clearance to go to 2,800 feet. So let's acknowledge that.
Descend and maintain 2,800 feet. Expect ILS Yankee runway 29er right approach via Alta transition. Cleared to Alta Beechcraft 278.
So we set our 2,800 as our desired altitude. Switch to VS mode, and we will descend at minus 900 feet per minute. And we start to get some speed now. Changing altitude for speed. And hopefully this will dry off before we get to our runway. Not sure what that spike is out in front of us. Wow, I'm not sure what it is.
278, please expedite your descent to 2,800 feet.
And 900 feet per minute is pretty fast, so I don't know why we're being asked to expedite. Our structure right now, ice structure is 43%, so that's looking better. Let's go outside and see if we can see what that is. That is just very odd. I'm not sure what it is in this. I guess that maybe that's a highway, but it sure does look straight. Funny that it's right in front of us. Almost looks like some kind of navigation aid. Let's take a look at Little Navmap, and this is why they've asked us to hurry up our descent, because they waited too long to tell us what to do. And we are way much higher than what we ought to be. Let's go ahead and set our descent speed down to 1,200 feet per minute. See if that gets us down to where we want to be. And we're up in the danger zone, caution zone. Let's cut back on our throttle a bit. We are landing, so we turn on our landing lights. Whatever that was in front of us is gone now, so I guess that was just some kind of Microsoft artifact. No, there it is right there. It's still there. Some kind of spike. Use our gear to help slow us down a little bit. Should give us a little bit steeper descent. And now we can go to flaps, at least one. I don't want to get too slow because I still have ice on the wings, which means that our stall speed is going to be higher than it would normally be. ice structure is now 35%. And let's see, our wireless frequency is 111.30, and we already have been assigned that, so that's good, but we're not receiving it. We don't know how far it is yet.
Beechcraft 278, contact Fresno approach on 119.6.
All right.
Going to 119.6 Beechcraft 278. Fresno approach Beechcraft November 7278 is out of 4,600 feet for 2,800 feet.
Beechcraft November 7278 Fresno approach. Continue to Sango as planned. Altimeter 29.902.
So our ice structure now is down to 18%. And we're going to reach our intended altitude 2,800 just a little bit before we get to Sango. And our final approach fix is at Story at 1,800 feet. So go ahead and set that as our selected altitude, and when we get to Sango, we'll be approved to land, and we'll drop down to that in order to catch the glide slope. See the airport in the distance. Three miles to Sango. We have a cross wind of about 1 nautical mile per hour, 1 knot, and a tailwind of 2. So it should be fairly easy to land.
Beechcraft 278, you are 14 miles southeast of Fresno. Contact Fresno Tower on 118.21 inbound.
Here we are.
Tower on 118.2 Beechcraft 278.
Contact tower, and tower will give us clearance
Fresno
to
Tower,
land.
Beechcraft November 7278, 14 miles southeast inbound ILS Yankee runway 29er right approach. Beechcraft November 7278, Fresno Tower. Cleared ILS Yankee runway 29er right approach. Altimeter 29er.9er 21256 at 3.
We have clearance to land, and so
Cleared
we set our
ILS Yankee
final
runway
selected
29er right
approach
Beechcraft
altitude
278.
at 1,800 feet and our vertical speed at minus 900 feet per minute. And we should be intersecting our glide scope, our glide path at our next intersection. And we are below the glide path. We're using the localizer for our approach, and we're going to set the navigation mode to approach. So we should connect to the glide slope at the appropriate time and descend into Fresno. I'd love to visit this valley again. I used to live here a number of years ago for a few years. Lots of things to do and to see around here. A lot of nice people too. According to Little Navmap, the airport is 336 feet above sea level. Always good to know. Still a good bit below the glide slope. If the ILS information is correct. Sometimes it's not. The glide slope looks to be active. It's coming down now. We're getting closer to it.
Beechcraft 278 cleared to land runway 29er right. Wind 256 at 3. Cleared to land runway 29er right Beechcraft 278.
And we've intersected the glide slope. Final notch of flaps. and follow the glide slope all the way down. Plenty of fuel left in both tanks. All the ice is gone now, according to the Little Navmap. I start cutting back a little bit on the speed. I like to be about 80 knots. Glide slope looks good. Sending about 400, 550 feet per minute. One mile out. Disengage the glide slope, the autopilot, and fly it the rest of the way in myself. And everything is looking perfect. Got the power. Fly it right above the runway. And I rate applause. From my landing rate monitor.
Beechcraft 278 exit runway when able.
Could have been a better landing. Didn't line up to the center line very well. But we're on the ground and still breathing.
Beechcraft 278 contact ground on 121.7.
Acknowledge the handoff.
Going to 121.7 Beechcraft 278.
We'll stop right here beyond the threshold. And go to ground and request taxi to parking.
Fresno ground, Beechcraft November 7278 taxi to parking. Beechcraft November 7278 taxi to general aviation parking by taxiway cross runway 29er left alpha cross runway 11 right cross runway 11 left bravo.
All right, that's interesting. Cross runway 29er, alpha, cross runway 11R, cross runway 11 left, beta. So let's see if that makes sense.
278, did you hear my last transmission?
And we did, I'm sorry.
Taxiing to general aviation parking using taxiway cross runway 29er left alpha cross runway 11 right cross runway 11 left bravo Beechcraft 278.
And let's see if we can see where we're supposed to go. I'm going to go here to full screen map and zoom in on the airport. And let's see, where are we? Here we are. And it tells us to cross runway 29 left Let's see, what did it say? Let's go back to the flight simulator again. Cross runway 29 left from where I'm at, and then 29 right, cross runway 11 left, and then beta. So 29 left, alpha, runway 11 right, cross runway 11 left, beta 278. So let's see where it's taking us, if we can remember that. Okay, this is what we landed on 29 right. We're going to cross 29 left, go to alpha. Then we're going to cross I don't know why it's moving us there, but we're going to cross 29 left, and then 29 right, and then use beta to get to the general aviation parking right over here. I believe that is what they want us to do. So let's follow those instructions. Alpha. What's all the green for? I don't know. Now we cross 2 runways. This is not the way you're supposed to do this, but it's a simulator, not real life. And there it is. Can hardly see it from the other side. That's 1 runway. And there's supposed to be a taxiway right there, and didn't see it. Well, I'll get in trouble for this, but that's all right. I think that means don't use this. But what are you going to do? Here's taxiway beta. And if the map is right, then GA parking should be right down here. And if it's not, we'll make it that way anyway. Looking for a couple of guys to help park this thing. Let's see what the map looks like. We're coming close to it. Should be to our left. And I see some GA aircraft over there. And I think I see a couple of guys waiting over there to help me park. And that is the flight. And as you can see, parking was not just real great, but I'm somewhere near the parking spot. And Little Navmap helped me find that and worked with us along the entire route until we came to our destination of Fresno. I hope this little video has been helpful to you. If you have questions about this video, or if you have additional questions about Little Navmap, please let me know within the comments, and I'll be glad to help in any way that I possibly can. I'm not an expert flyer, not an expert on Little Navmap, but I've used a little bit and understand some things that that I didn't know before, and perhaps I can help some people out in this way. Thanks for watching. We'll look for you again in the next video.